I have joining me to discuss the ongoing proceedings at the International Court of Justice, Global Affairs Analyst Gbenga Onifade. Good to have you join us.
Good afternoon.
So we'll see what has been playing out since Monday at the ICJ, and everyone is saying, it is more of an advisory opinion. But what ramification will it have?
Yeah, if any at all, it's like you said, it's more of an advisory opinion. I think we could take ourselves back to 2004 when there was actually a previous ruling when the United Nations told Israel to stop extending the wall because it creates a form of division, which is a discord, and it can of course escalate situations as we have seen. And if at all, since that ruling in 2004, Israel actually further extended it. So, we're not going to actually expect much to happen right now. It kind of feels like, not of a saber rattling, but kind of like a lot of hot air, really. And as you can see, if you look at the world power, they're not actually united. Yes, we do have 52 nations, across the world. We have two nations, supporting that motion, whereby they just want to put an end to this war and, of course, to escalations. And then we do have some major powers who oppose it, including Canada. And then we have Switzerland, who's abstaining. So I don't expect anything much to happen at this moment. I mean, more so we can say, this is totally towards the end of this war anyway. Like I said, right now, we just having the rubble is just bouncing. And I don't see the war coming to, I don't see Israel achieving what they want to achieve, but at the same time, when it comes to the ICJ, I don't see that having a major effect at all.
But if the ruling, and that's if the ruling was to go against Israel, what would be the implication for allies like the US and Europe, especially in terms of supply of arms and then aid to Israel?
Yeah, I think of course, it would be a major blow if Israel would have to oppose, would not have to listen to that. But there's so many different ways to play diplomacy, and it's a key year, 2024. With United Kingdom, United States of America having the elections. There will be, of course, there could be a withdrawal of ammunitions, which Israel say, well, we do have enough, more than enough, at bay to see it through. But at the same time, I think there will be a lot more deliberations behind the scene, and you could actually see a different way whereby this will be played. But as you said earlier as well, as you mentioned, they did not attend in person. They rather sent a 5-page letter to detail their motion. But on the other hand, whatever the ruling says, I expect Israel to do what they want to do in order to achieve. And of course, security matters. But also, you've got to understand, on the home front, the people are tired of the war. Whether we like it or not, ultimately, it's always this communication. Like Winston Churchill said, more Georgia, less war. It will be about the jaws. They will all eventually come to glass, and of course, there will be something at stake, and there will be a bit of a give and take on both sides ultimately. But again, like I said again, it will be more politics played behind the scene than on the front side, because ultimately we've had this now going on since October, and this is their 4th month, and we're not getting anywhere at all. If at all, there's just been escalations in counts of dead bodies.
But as you examine the developments around the war, and that's since October the 7th, even as we speak, the U.S. has proposed a draft resolution to the United Nations Security Council calling for temporary ceasefire in Gaza. And as you examine all of this, what does it tell you about the future of Israeli-Palestinian relations?
It's quite difficult, really. You do have people talking about the biblical references. You do have people talking about history, and it's a lot more complex than that. And I think right now, as a result of this war, of course, you've created more new enemies with yourselves. I don't see it going anywhere, even though you might say on the selfish side, if you want to say that, some of the some of the new policies which Israel is implementing which they said, for example, they will be in charge in future of Palestine security. What does that tell you? Which means, and of course, they might just have to create a further barrier in order to secure the Israeli state. So on one side, you might say that is actually a better one for Israel. You know, they're now cutting, they're creating more gaps again in terms of dependency upon each other. They're going to seek a few things that they depend from Palestine. They're going to seek it from elsewhere, just creating that bigger border between each other. So I expect, I don't expect more, any more friendship at the minute, as a result of this, because this is going to last in people's mind for a long time. That's number one. Number two, I think as a result of that distance that's been created, yes, in future, do I still expect more of this to happen, more fracas? Yes, I think I do expect that. In terms of a blown-out war, I don't think it might happen anytime soon, because whatever might trigger that. They've kind of secured that passion. They've created a lot more division. So overall, in future, I think there's going to be a lot more division. Number one, I don't see them shaking hands anytime soon in terms of being friends at all. But at the same time, but I think the key thing is, are we looking at a two-state solution with either side of the wall not agreeing? I don't see that happening.
And for that two-state solution, it will seem as though the leaders are not willing or do not have the political will to enforce that. But I wanted to ask you, talk to you about what's going on in Israel. There are calls for an early election in Israel. Protesters there are asking Prime Minister Netanyahu to step down. Is this a revolt against his government, and how long do you think he can hold on to power?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's been there, done that. This is not the first time he's been the Prime Minister. And, this is the second time. And war costs money. War costs money. Yes, Israel is a prosperous nation by its own stand. But at the same time, since we had the war, there's been intelligent failings. That's number one. Number two, I believe that, like people say, the pen is mightier than the sword. I think more could have been achieved just by talking, but getting to grasp since the initial reprisal by Israel in getting the hostages back which was captured by Palestine. They still haven't got it. They've expended so much money. So of course, that's internally it's breeding, and like people say, well, the chicken's coming home to roost. So ultimately, I don't expect him overseeing that. Somebody else might want to come and say, whatever we've been doing is no longer working. Let's try something else. That's another state. And of course, again, we don't, he's the face of Israel, and Israel wants to present that friendly face. You don't make enemies by killing people. You want to make friends. And now, for the first time again, if indirectly the United States is not confronting Israel, but they're starting to use some of these words that they don't want to use, and he's coming to the fore. So yes, they've also equally got an election, but in-house, I don't think people want him to lead the party anymore. So you're having people calling for, we just want a new face, we want a fresh start. Yes, we still want a strong leader, which he has always been, but overall, I think they just time to turn on the gear and move in a different direction overall.
Especially with the frustration coming from allies. Thank you so much for talking to us, as always. Always a pleasure. Global Affairs Analyst, Gbenga Onifade.
Thanks for having me.